Drop a boob and have a shave. I've not talked about this subject on here yet, but nor have I hidden it, my transgenderism. I'm Silvana, and especially last video you might have seen me have some problems that normal people, or better phrased, cis people, don't have. When I made an elevated palm spin for the first time, something flew out that would normally be attached to the body. If I don't wear an extra tight sports bra, my breast can fall out when I'm inverted or jumping up and down. Normally I leave those out of the edit, as it's generally a tad embarrassing, but this time it was only one of 3 successful attempts before I kicked the lock and kinda had to call it a day for a bit. But I decided I should not be ashamed of it. It is something that's perfectly normal in the world of Silvana, and besides that probably others. Though it might not be as common a problem for most trans women, as most of the population does not jump up and down as much as I do, make it less of a problem for most trans women, I assume. The other problem I alluded to, me having to shave in the morning, is something a whole lot more people have to deal with every day. Nevertheless, I have not spoken yet on this channel about my transgenderism. Mostly, as personally to me, being transgender does not feel like something that defines me as a person. It just happens to be something that I am. But the same can be said of other things that I do talk about. So it might be time to give it a bit more attention. Especially when I meet new people, it's something they are often interested in. And as this channel is about the subject of overcoming fear, my transgenderism is actually a big part of that, as my transition and my personal growth went hand in hand. I can't say which came first. If this is not the first video you watch of me, you know that I've been locked up in my own bubble until I decided I was sick of it and began challenging myself. That of course is very simply put and took me years, and it's taking me years, and a whole lot of help and rest. But my coming out as transgender was a big part of that. I was able to come out as the woman I am because of the growth I did. And I was able to grow because of coming out as the woman I am. Though it's only part of it because there are a lot more aspects to my personality than my gender. The extreme change that I went through when it comes to me opening up and not being afraid of who I am is due to me wanting to grow and to be completely sick of where I was. But I could not have done it if I did not accept all the parts of who I am, and with that, being a woman. Yet, on the other hand, I did not want it to define who I am. I'm a whole lot of other traits combined that form the person I am. And quite a few are traditionally ascribed to male or female. And I did have a period where that bothered me, and to an extent it still does a little. But then when I think about how to feel where to be a cis woman, and it just seems ridiculous to not call that woman a woman. Even if she does freerun and loves setting challenges and challenging other people and thinks it's absolutely hilarious to be extremely strong. When people tell me something I do is not feminine, I just retort that it might not be feminine, but it is Silvana. What I mean to say is that I think of myself as Silvana and not as a woman. I just am a woman. And when I think of it with my fears, it does make complete sense. If I do not accept the person who I am, of course I can't get over my insecurities. And then it does make sense that if I don't accept me thinking that this is the person I am, of course I can't believe any other thoughts I might have. Like if I just don't accept myself and start to doubt who I am, of course I'll just doubt everything in general. Or at least that somewhat sounds like it makes some sense to me. So I am Silvana, and I wear fancy dresses, and I stand on edges of buildings. Though not at the same time, because have you ever tried wearing a hoop skirt and then keep track of where your feet are? Because those things get lost down there, and you don't want to be searching for the edge of a building on feeling alone at that point. In general, I just see myself as a woman who just happens to be transgender, and not as a trans woman, as that does not make who I am. Though I do sometimes let fear describe who I am, to an extent. That might be because of the massive effect it had on my life, and how I now use it as a driving force for my growth. And it's the main subject of this YouTube channel. But my transgenderism and fear have affected each other. They have happened hand in hand. When I hit in a bubble, I hit every part of myself. And when I was thinking on how I might be transgender, I stood in front of a humongous challenge. This was the period of my life where I started getting help, when I sat home depressed, when I did nothing, when I was kicked off my school, and a very long way to go before I would be able to accept myself. I received non-transgender related help, I was given some rest, and I slowly began to open up. I searched for friendship and a way to be. Slowly I worked up to being not so afraid. It was a very long and slow progress, when at a certain point I was able to ask a random someone on the internet if he would be willing to help me experiment with dressing as a woman. She did not know anything about transgenderism, but she wanted to help this random person out, and I cannot thank her enough. We over time became best friends, Beep and I. I wish everyone had just someone to help them and not fight alone. I still hid and slowly experimented, letting no one but her see me with a skirt, makeup or nail polish, as I very slowly built up my courage. And slowly I started telling more and more people, starting with close friends or people I just met. Telling new people somehow was a whole lot easier than people who I have known for years, though I did not have that many friends anyway. Time came when quite a few people knew. I still went around in t-shirts and jeans, and when I was invited to a party by someone who I just met at a festival, she told me I could come as a woman, and I went over, changed my clothes at her place, when she suddenly said she had to go to the store for a bit, and she wanted me to go with her. She did not know it was actually my first time I would be outside as a woman. I did not tell her, and I just went with her. I was still not that great at talking to people, but I went outside, still very scared, though I guess my fear might have been quite noticeable. A random little girl came up to us and asked if we are best female friends. In Dutch, the grammar is a bit different, so it's more sensible. I just stood there mute, and my newest friend, after a bit, said, "Oh, yes we are." And the little girl just looked up at us and said, "Ah, because I thought she looked like a... Nah, never mind, might have been me." And she just left. And we were just standing there wondering what that was about. And this was just the first of many strange encounters I was going to have. In the meantime, Beep still supporting me, I began going outside as a woman and telling my family and most of my friends. I began experimenting with names. Lots of people used nicknames that I either made up or that I have used in other settings, such as Mino for Mino Dragon, my online gaming handle, and other bastardizations for my birth name. Until I decided it was time for a new name, something that meant me. My parents just simply told me to tell them when I picked something. I spent hours looking up and writing out names, searching for something feminine, something that sounded fancy but also badass. But I could not pick something that was too strange, or a name that I already knew someone with the same name. I did not want to have that conversation. "Oh hi, I'm called you now." Wait, what? Until I decided, let's try Latin for a bit. I quickly came to Silvana, and I thought it was pretty cool, and it's fancy, and not that much out there, and it sounded cool. And it's the adjective for forest, forest-like, pertaining to the forest. So it's not a bad meaning either. Forested is pretty cool. And it was not that it felt like me right away, but after a bit, maybe a long bit, it started to feel like me. Slowly I became more and more open about who I am, and in daring to share myself as a person. And there was no break on this train. I kept going, and I wanted to share everything with the world. I saw what it brought people when I was able to share. I saw how it made other people open up as well. Being open received beautiful feedback. I wanted to keep going. I saw what happened when I was not afraid. How I made a promise to myself that I wanted to overcome fear. I wanted to fight for it. I'm now in a strange position where people assume I'm not afraid of anything. And when I tell people about my fear, my panic attacks, they start staring at me in great confusion, because they know me as a person who just does everything and does not care about fear at all. While below that is still a large foundation of fear that has been able to build up in the years and was able to solidify in the 20 plus years. So I wanted, and no, I needed to be the person I am. And if that's a woman, so be it. I have no choice there. And with challenging fear, I needed to challenge myself to be myself. I needed to live as the person I am, as the woman I am. Every time I went outside as a woman was a new challenge. It was extremely scary, feeling people watching me. It helped me to know that I'm already an eccentric person, so people might just be watching me because I was doing something else strange. Just a very odd way to look at it maybe, but it did help me. If people are already staring at me, who cares for what reason this is?
Right leg, let's go there. Left leg can land on the log.
With time and many little steps, I began living as a woman full time. Though I still had to deal with people staring at me or making comments behind my back every day, and most likely will need to the rest of my life. But hey, everyone has to an extent, no matter who they are, because people always make comments about anyone. And I don't mind being strange or an oddity, so if people want to stare at me and make comments, not my problem. But almost all people reacted positively, and they get a few accidental he's, some questions, some stares, some sneers, or people, mostly teenagers, after they pass me my bicycle, look back and start laughing, or kids staring at me in wonder, and the occasional, "Oh yeah, I know a transgender too! Well, good for you!" And I've had death threats twice, one serious enough to involve the police, leading to an arrest. So that wasn't pleasant. Though when it comes to being afraid, I have the advantage of being a giant, so that helps with not being afraid of people in general. So far I've heard it all. Ew! You're just a man! Psst! Was that a man or a woman? You need to put a rope around that neck. Yet in all of this, my approach has been openness. If people ask questions or make a mistake, I'll just talk to them and not attack them. This is also the reason why in last week's video I did not edit the part out where I launched my boob. Twice. It happens, it's part of my life. It's normal, strange as it is. I wear prostheses to feel more like me, to give me more of a female body, and I can try to normalize it a bit, as far as a single person can. And going back to what people have said or done, sorry, I like funny stories. At festivals before I had breasts, and I was in full costume, one of the things people often wondered what gender I was. So some people took it upon themselves to check it out. People have come up to me and just grabbed my chest to feel if there were any boobs there to see what gender I was. And it's always been women, by the way. The first time it happened was an elderly woman who just came up, grabbed my chest and just moved on. Said nothing, and I just stood there, very confused. Later it happened maybe 5 more times, and it was always just random girls. And they had the notion that they could get away with it because they were women too, right? Or I assume that's what they were thinking. And me being me, I just grabbed their boobs back. Because if they say that this is normal, sure. If you say this is normal, fine. And then I sometimes ask them if this is how they always greet people. Or I meow because I'm dressed up as a cat. They claim this to be normal, apparently. And then they give me surprised looks back. Well, I was left entertained by their surprised looks. But yeah, I could go on with these stories. But yes, I wear breasts and have to shave every day, as I'm still on a very long waiting list for hormones. Still, I live my life by any means necessary. And I notice there's still so much more to tell on the subject, and I keep wanting to go into funny or interesting stories. But for now I wanted to give a bit of an overview of my experience as a trans person and a trans woman. And I think there's a lot of overlap with my fear that I've built up in my life, and setting challenges, and most likely traumas in the past that have caused this fear to manifest, which I'm trying to beat now. And I should make more videos on the subject of my transgenderism. It is a big part of me, and I have had moments in the past where I could say there might be a link between my dysphoria and fear. Because if you're new to this channel and you came here due to the subject of transgenderism, I make videos on fear and beating it by the use of freerun and setting challenges for myself as a beginner level freerunner. And I happen to be transgender, if that was not already clear enough. So please come along and join me next week. That was good training. I made that jump, and I made that jump, and I got consistency, and I did not kick my own leg. Silvana's happy. That was my last training before Elfia, because I want to be in perfect shape for Elfia, because Elfia is pretty intense when you're wearing costume and you're spending the whole day squatting or carrying around 30 kilos in costume. So that's time for a bit of a break.